Welcome everyone to another episode of Dynamics Corner, where the podcasts where we dive deep into all things Microsoft Dynamics. Whether you're a seasoned expert or just starting your journey into the world of Dynamics 365, this is your place to gain insights, learn new tricks, and who can automate your documents. I'm your co-host, Chris.
And this is Brad. This episode was recorded on September 30th, 2024. Chris.
Yo.
We're coming into the fourth quarter of 2024. Where did the year go?
It flew, man. Flew too fast.
It flew. And I have a philosophy, like I do on many things, why it flew, which we talked about, and the wonderful features and functionality of AP automation, expense management, document output, and sustainability within Business Central. A lot of Business Central users have a need for one of those extensions or products, whatever you may want to call it. And with us today, we had the opportunity to speak with Mark Rhodes from Continuous Software to learn all about those great applications. Look who it is.
Look.
Mr. Rhodes. How are you doing, sir?
Thank you very much. Howdy, guys.
Nice to see you this afternoon
Nice to
or this
see
evening
you.
or whatever it is. I don't even know what it is anymore. It's tough to keep track.
I don't know what day it is. Don't ask me what day it is.
It's the
and what
last
time.
day of September, for crying out loud.
I don't even know where September went.
Poof.
I
No.
know
Gone.
it was a blink of an eye.
Right.
But I don't know if I said it on the podcast before, but I'll tell you my story of why I think time goes faster as we get older, or feels if it goes faster as we
I
get
knew
older.
this would be an enlightening conversation, and it's already diving in. I love it. Lay it on.
It is. Chris, did I talk about this before? I did. Can I repeat it or no?
No.
was
I
very
don't think you did.
polite.
I don't think you did. So I think it's a good point to talk about why you think time flies, past you. That's a good one.
I think as you get older, the perception of how fast time goes changes. And the reason why I feel this way, time is constant. Well, I guess we were taught that.
Relative to
So-
us, yeah.
Yes. So when you were younger, do you recall those that celebrated Christmas? And if you don't celebrate Christmas, just pretend that Christmas came once a year. And when you were 5 years old, or you can pick any holiday or birthday, if for that fact, it comes once a year. And when you're 5, you're like, oh, Christmas. Do you remember it used to take forever to come? Like, oh, it was so far, away, and it took forever to come. And then it would eventually come and it would be there.
Yes.
Well, when you're 5 and Christmas being once a year, having to wait a year is 20% of your life, in essence, at that point, right? So you don't have as many Christmases or many years to remember,
Right.
as much time to remember, because you've only been alive for 5 years. And as you get older, you have the span of time between that 1 year relative to your entire life is smaller. So that's where now I start to go, oh, when I say to Chris or I say to others, oh, I remember I did that the other day. We did this. And I'm like, Brad, that was 6 months ago. Or, hey, that was last year. So now September went by quickly, or feels like it went by quickly, because we all are older, and that
Smaller
30-day span is a smaller percentage of our lives. What are your thoughts on that?
I do think that influences it. For me, it's how busy you are.
Okay.
You just get more busy as you get on later in life. I think up until having kids, life is pretty lax, right? You just you got time on your hands and you get to do things, and then the kids hit, and then it's just a race at that point. And I think when there's so much to do every day, that occupies your time, and you're always thinking about the next thing that needs to be done, and then before you know it, the day's over and you're on to the next day, and it's never ending, is it?
And then so you're saying it passes you by because you are
You feel
also
the
too
time.
busy. But with that, though, You mentioned having children do that, but the children will get old and the children will move out, hopefully, and be on their own, and you would have that time back. Now, wouldn't you just fill that time? Don't people fill their time with something?
One of the largest questions in my life right now is exactly on that point. We're empty nesters now, and you think all of a sudden we'd have all this other time on our hands, and we don't, and I don't understand it.
See?
And have we replaced it with something? Why don't I feel like I have more time now? I don't know. I honestly don't.
So you didn't know we were going to have a philosophical session today, did you?
And I'm glad we are. I'm hoping that you're just going to open up new worlds for me here and make me feel just all kumbaya. It would be lovely.
That's the intent of this and every discussion that we have. But we do have other things that we wanted to talk about.
Okay.
But before we talk about those items,
Yes.
and maybe Chris will think of another philosophical discussion. Would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself?
Well, sure. I like long walks on the beach and pink sunsets and
Pink in the morning, sailors take warning. Pink at
You
night,
must
sailors delight.
live in Florida somewhere.
Used to, actually. That's a whole interesting story as well. But my name is Mark Rhodes, and I am with Continia. I actually just got a new job title. I'm now the Director of Sales and Marketing for North America.
Well, congratulations to that,
thank you
Chris.
very much.
I have the soundboard, but I haven't used it in so long, so now
It's
we'll just do the
rusty.
real
It's
clapping.
very authentic, and I appreciate it. Yes.
Congratulations on your new title.
Thank you
Yes.
very much. So, as a lot of the listeners and viewers know, I've been involved in the community for, speaking of how fast time goes, right? I don't know how you measure it exactly. Call it coming up on 20 years, perhaps. But
Decades.
yes.
2 decades.
And
Previous episodes, Chris educated me and said that it's decades.
decades. It's a nice way to reference it. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So you're 2 decades in.
Yeah. And so, if are we going to talk about Continia, or would you like me to say more about me, or what do you want to chat about?
No, I didn't know that you were in Florida. I know that you're over in Denver, or in the Colorado area.
I am
now,
in Colorado. Now, this behind me indicates my, that's hard to do backwards, my collegiate allegiance, one of my collegiate allegiances. University of Florida, went there twice. But also have allegiances at, let's see, Penn State, Colorado State, University of Arizona, Colorado Mesa. So,
Wait a second.
it's a lot of
So
fun.
you
Wow.
visited Florida State, or you attended the university as a student
I
twice?
attended the University of Florida as a student, yes, and got 2 degrees there.
Excellent.
Wow.
So
Impressive.
which part of Florida are you in? I know Florida State has many.
Oh, this is very important. So, Florida State is in Tallahassee. Those are the Seminoles.
Yes.
We don't really care about them. University of Florida in Gainesville, the Gators. That's the university that's important. And then there's that other university down south that we don't even speak of.
The University of Miami?
That's the one we don't speak of.
Okay. So you speak of the Gators.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
See, I'm being enlightened here. I'm learning. Chris, do you understand the geography? Tallahassee, south.
Yeah, Tallahassee,
There's like a-
Gainesville, and then the other one's down here. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So, yes, grew up in Florida, raised the kids there when they were young, and then at one point we said we've got to leave Florida, and we went to Colorado, and here we are.
You went backwards. Typically, people
No.
like go live in the cold, and then as you get older, I'm like, I'm gonna go somewhere warm.
Okay, are you ready for this? We'll still touch on some philosophical stuff here. The biggest question of my life is, you ready for this? Do you prefer a climate that's opposite of where you grew up, or are you predestined to a certain climate?
Ooh.
I think you're predestined to a certain climate because I think as you age, now I'm thinking about this as I'm talking. As you age, I think physically the effects of weather on your body change. I grew up in the cold.
Mm-hmm.
I spent, 25, 30 years skiing.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to love this cold,
Yes.
right? To 25 years skiing.
Yes.
20 years? That's something. See, I can't even remember.
Decades.
And now I hate the cold. And I will quote my daughter. She said it best. She said, nobody should live where the air hurts your face.
But you miss it though. You say
I
you
don't
miss
miss
it.
the cold. I do not miss the cold. See, I think
miss
the
certain
ideal thing to
seasons.
be and is to be a snowbird. I think someone who lives in a warmer climate during the cooler months and someone who lives in the not so northern,
Right.
I mean not so cool climate northern during the non-summer months, because down in the south
Right.
you can cook an egg on your hand if you walk outside. So being up north during the spring, summer, and fall,
Mm-hmm.
late spring,
Mm-hmm.
early fall is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Also, Florida is flat as flat.
Yes, it is.
So the mountains are beautiful. The trees
Yeah.
are beautiful. The leaves, the foliage. I know, Mark, you have a lot of that over in Colorado too. So I appreciate and understand why you live there
Mhm.
up until probably like next week.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
it's
that's a
beautiful
tough
here
one.
every day of the year.
That's a tough one because I grew up
Right.
first
How do you
10
answer
years.
that? Right.
Yeah, I grew up the first 10 years in an island, right? Like I love it. I mean, the weather's perfect all year round.
know that.
And then I moved to Washington State and I spend most of my life here.
Right.
As I get older, we looked at other places, but I love the mountains around me. It keeps me humble
Yes.
and makes me feel like, look, I'm nothing but a speck in this world.
Wow.
Surrounded by the mountains, and so it keeps me grounded, but I do miss the ocean, right? I do miss that, and there's times with me where, like, I want to go back and go home, I guess, per se, but I love the mountains. It's like I fell in love with it.
You
It's
need to be a
different.
snowbird. That way, I appreciate what you're saying, because all of the hiking that I've done, I love being in the mountains. I love hiking, like mountains. I'm not talking walking in the trails. I talked to some people. I said, oh, do you want to go for a hike? And they showed up thinking that we were, just going for a little walk in the woods and a path. And I'm like, no, we hike mountains. But it does keep you grounded, the fresh air, the exertion. But
Yeah.
I think we need to migrate. I think we need a change. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know why you're there in the cold either, but stay up there. Just less people that move, the better.
So it's an impossible question to answer, I think. But all I know is we would come out here every year for a week to go skiing, and I just felt so invigorated when we would get out here and to see the mountains and the snow and the cold and everything. And so we finally said, yeah, let's do that full time. That sounds like a good idea. Here we are.
And how long has it been?
We moved out here in 2008. We actually traveled the country for a year in an RV during that transition, and as part of finding a new place to live.
Yeah. So it's good. Okay. So
Yeah.
we'll jump into the philosophy lesson being over for a short period of time. We may go back to it.
Sure.
Unless there's philosophy in Continia.
Always. There's philosophy in everything, I'm pretty sure.
So just to put it and level it, and then we'll pretend that I don't know you, and I'll say, what is Continia?
What is Continia? It's the single best add-on solution for Business Central and Nav that exists in the entire planet. How's that?
That is a great summary. With it being the best add-on or extension for Business Central on the planet,
Yes.
what does it do for me?
At the top level, it is business process automation solutions across a variety of components, departments, processes, and so forth for the company. Most people know us for one of two solutions: document capture, which is literally process automation for inbound documents. Most people start there with invoices. If you hear ever of the term AP automation, invoice automation, that's it. And so rather than taking those invoices in, hand keying those into Business Central, sending them around via email to the reviewers to review and approve, notating their comments and so forth, we grab that invoice from an email, read everything off of it, save it inside Business Central. We can do full and partial matching against POs and receipts, automatically approve it, even automatically post the invoice. So finance really doesn't have to do anything at that point. It can be focused on much more engaging and certainly value-added activities. Keep them a little bit more interested rather than the monotony of the hand keying and chasing down people for information.
I like all of the processes that you can automate to a point, because as you had mentioned, you spend less time doing the data entry and you have more time to do the analysis.
Yes.
So with the AP automation on Continia, you create a purchase order, right? We're talking accounts payable with AP. You can create a purchase order. That purchase order would be sent to a vendor, and that vendor would send an invoice to you for those items on the purchase order.
Exactly.
And with the AP automation via email, can you scan it too?
Yes, does all that for you. Yep.
So via email as a PDF attachment or a document that's mailed in, you will basically, for the lack of better terms, import the document, and the software or the extension will read the document, find a PO, adjust the quantities, and then post it for you.
Yep,
that all sounds wonderful.
Yes.
But now I'll have some questions for you.
Of course.
What is it possible to do this for invoices that you do not have a PO for? For example, let's just say I had service done, an emergency service, and someone came and fixed my generator, and they gave me an invoice.
Yep.
Would I be able to create an invoice from that?
Absolutely. We have master rule sets and then vendor specific rule sets, so you can really dial in exactly how do you want to treat each of these invoices. Am I matching or not? How am I coding it? And we have a variety of coding options beyond GLs, right? You can charge it to items, charge items, resources, etc. Pull all that information out, and basically really vary what you do within each invoice. Of course, the goal is to make all of this automated. So one of the beautiful things I like best about our solution, it's not a typical system where you got to get it set up and there's a 0 or 100% on it, right? If you're implementing BC, there's a whole laundry list of things that have to be set up before you can take it live. With our solutions, the way we've designed it is, if you want to start out really slow, great. You want to start out medium, great. You want to start out super automated, great. That's up to you. If you start out slow, kind of watch how the system works, let it just do a little bit for you and get used to it, then you can turn on more automation. You can let it do more for you and continue to change that over time. So it's very adaptable, very configurable. You get new business lines in, you acquire another company, all these things, very easy to roll those changes in. It's very slick.
No, I like it, as I had mentioned, and I'm glad that you mentioned the point that it doesn't need to be 0 or 100%, or you go from 0 to 100%, because anything that you can do to save time for data entry for any of your talent that's employed at an organization, it gives them the opportunity to do other things.
Exactly.
As I had mentioned, to analyze. So even if it scans or reads the document that it brings in, and it's 90% there, if they just have to review and adjust versus having to type everything in, it's still a huge win for them. It's I keep saying over and over again, it's using all of these extensions, add-ons as tools. They're tools to do a job, not there to do a job for you. That's how I like to look at it. So it helps.
Yeah.
So, Chris, you like that?
Are you saying you have to put effort?
People sometimes don't realize that work is work. And I often say, would you just like me to do it? Like, is that what you're looking for? Do you want me to do this? Because this is what you're supposed to be doing. Like, this is what your tasks are.
Yeah.
But Chris, yes, that's what it should be. Some things do require work. That's why they call it work. And they don't call it sitting there doing nothing.
Right.
So it's good. Okay, so to jump back to the AP Chris, do you have any? I can keep going on this AP. I get excited about this.
This is awesome stuff.
So now we talked about you have rules, you have templates for the vendors. What else can this do?
For document capture?
Yes.
So Yeah, I talked about.
Oh, I have a list of questions for you about Continia.
I love it.
I'm going to tell you right now.
Go.
I want to talk about training. I want to talk about emailing. I want to talk about a whole slew of things.
Let's get it going.
Okay.
Document capture, inbound documents. And I said, a lot of people know it for invoices, but we provide, let's say it's 9 or 10 different document categories out of the box. And so a document category is a purchase invoice or purchase order or something related to the vendor card or customer card or, those kind of things. So with all these different document categories, you can go around to the entire organization. Any documents that are coming in that you want somebody to not have to capture that and save it inside Business Central or rekey it or any of those manual tasks, we can automate that process for them. They can create their own out of the box as well. So sky's really the limit in terms of what you can do from a process automation standpoint. Purchase orders are a popular one, right? A lot of companies generate their purchase orders on maybe an Excel sheet or in another system or something along those lines. But you want to get those POs into Business Central. Same thing. We scan it, pick up all that information, automatically create the purchase order inside BC. Now you've got a formal process.
So we're talking purchase orders, and my mind will always go. Can you create other things besides purchase orders and purchase invoices with this document capture, or is it strictly for AP?
Yeah,
so
exactly. That's the point, right? Yep.
So what are some other examples? Could we create sales orders with this? Not necessarily do the matching or the finding of the purchase order. I understand that's part of the AP automation. But could we create sales orders?
Perfect example, right? Grab the customer's incoming PO, create the sales order in Business Central. You've got some vendor documents that they're sending in a 1099 or something, right? Go ahead and capture that, save it against the vendor card, right? It's a beautiful opportunity to go around the business and say, hey, where are you spending a lot of your time? Let me help, right?
No, I like the inbound AP automation and the ability to create documents. With Continia, so we talked about the AP solution, the AP automation solution. How does one implement this? Right? If somebody needs to have it implemented, is it something that a partner would implement for a customer? Is it something a customer could implement on their own? Is it something that you would implement?
I love that you've done so much homework. This is fantastic. These are very, very good questions. Thank you. Yes, you really did prepare for this.
Chris gave me a list of questions.
Okay. I'm sorry. I retract my gratitude. Chris, thank you.
This is too funny.
Before I answer that, though, probably the most important thing to know about our solutions is what we call being built inside Business Central. It's embedded inside the application. And so that is different than just about everybody else out there that has an add-on solution. Typically, what you find, as you know, you got an add-on solution, and then it's relying on an API, web service call, something to pass the data back and forth. We don't do that. Ours is specifically designed to work with Business Central and only works with Business Central and, of course, Snap.
Okay, so what you just said to me is you are not relying on another external service to do the processing for the Continia application, meaning you're not scanning a document, sending it out to some Continia server for processing, and then sending it back to Business Central. Somebody would scan a document into their Business Central environment, and their Business Central extension for Continia would do all of the processing in their software.
That's basically it. Yes, we say embedded inside BC because it is an extension that you download, install inside BC, and now it's all right there. So when you install Continia, you get a whole new set of activity queues right there on the Role Center. Finance team doesn't have to go anyplace else. It's all right there. They can keep track of everything. And of course, data is all right there as well. So anything that you want to report on, how are you doing your reporting today? You doing something in Excel, Power BI, whatever, all that data is right there for you as well. Yep.
So the user experience is really
key.
It doesn't change much, right? Because then, you live day to day in Business Central,
Right.
and you happen to come across, implement this tool, Continua, document capture, and there's really no needing to adopt to another system and the look and feel, right? So it's consistent, which is important when you are working in Business Central.
One of the things I've done a lot over my career is talk about change management, help companies with organizational change. And one of the things I end up talking a lot about to customers and with the partners that we work with is organizational change, change management. And it's fascinating to me, right? We're talking primarily to finance teams, right? They're the ones handling these invoices. And for decades, finance teams, you wanted a finance team that was not open to change, right? You wanted them to be very detail oriented, very process oriented, and not accept change. They always wanted to follow the structure. And now, all of a sudden, in the past 10 years, now we're asking an awful lot of these finance teams, because now we're asking them to adapt to change, right? With all these new tools and with AI and the continuing involvement of Business Central or whatever package they're using. Now, this is really rubbing against the core tradition of what a finance team is. I find that fascinating, and like I said, get involved in a lot of conversations about this. When the approach in terms of installing software and the timing of it relative to BC upgrades and implementations and all of that. And thankfully, one of the things that we do, again, like you just pointed out, Chris, is being embedded inside BC. It's the same UI. It operates exactly the same because you're in BC. So we provide a few new screens, and guess what? Oh, I want to see another column on this list. Great. How do you do that in BC? That's exactly how you do it right here. So at least we're not giving them that additional discomfort and change requirement to learn yet another system and the user interface involved and all those things.
So AP automation.
Yeah.
Check.
Oh, we got to go back to your question about how's this get done?
Yes.
Yes. Another key difference that we do that I really, really like is that we work through partners. And the reason I like this is because I was a partner for 15 years and did a lot of implementation.
Decade and a half.
And yes, decade and a half. And always on projects where you're dealing with ISVs. And I saw the strain that put onto the project. Because now, instead of the client-partner relationship, now you've got a third leg to that stool. And even though that says that'll make the stool, more stable, it causes a lot of conflict. Because then there's you get into the he said, she said, and well, no, Business Central should do this. No, the other solution should do this. And it's the back and forth. And the client has to spend more time teaching the ISV about their business and what they need. And there's just a lot of overhead. And we eliminate all that. We work through the partners. They're already working with the customers. They know their BC environment. They know the customer. Just much, much simpler. And on down the road for ongoing support, that customer, they're inside BC. They don't know if they have a question that's something Continua related or core BC related. And that's too much to ask them to figure that out. But we eliminate that. They just call their partner like they always do when they have a question about BC.
No, that's a good point.
I like that point that you made, because the purpose of the extensions, forget continuing this point, or one of the nice things I like about the extensions with Business Central is that appearance to the customer is they do not know where Business Central starts and ends and another extension, even if they create a PTE for themselves, it's all seamless. So for them, they have one experience. The only question I have with that is, and I've run into challenges before, is if you have a great solution like Continua, you have a partner that works with the customer for implementation. There's 5,000 ISVs or apps available in the App Store. There's more than one ISV that somebody may need an implementation, but my little brain doesn't know how to use Continua or to set up Continua properly for the customer. How can I work through an implementation like that?
Yeah, absolutely. and here's the thing. I realized this probably day 2 working here. I've been here about
A decade and a half ago,
No.
or 2 decades
Hey,
ago, or
there's that, a fourth of a decade.
a quarter of a decade ago.
A quarter of a decade.
Yes.
Chris, this will stick forever.
Well,
I
that
know, it
sounds like a
sounds
lot
cooler.
longer than 2.5 years. Gosh.
Yes,
Does it? Well, see, that
That's-
actually
that's that's the
sound
point.
bad. A quarter of a decade
Yeah.
sounds ominous.
How about 2% of a century?
Half a century, 1/10 of a century.
What were we talking about? Oh yeah. So my second day here, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I said, okay, beautiful model, but guess what? If the partner isn't successful, that's it. We're out of business. It's as simple as that. And so we have a very refined, process-oriented, structured program that we take partners through. There's an onboarding process we take them through. We have on-demand training. They have a specific partner portal that they have access to with specific technical documents and demo environment, things like that. And then we have a services team, and all they do is talk to partners all day and either get them up to speed on the initial implementations or solve issues, during ongoing implementations and support. And all that support's free to the partners, right? So there's no disincentive for them to ask a question. Typically, takes a couple projects to feel pretty comfortable with the
I'm
solution.
putting your number on speed dial right now.
So,
Hey, I think that's a
That would be
great
great.
call out on the support there, Mark, because
I like that.
Nobody realizes that for a partnership to work,
Yeah.
you have to be able to support each other. And you see that. I mean, you've been in the space for over 2 decades, and certainly you've seen maybe some ISVs where you don't get the support. It doesn't work out very well in the long run. So not only supporting your partner, but supporting your clients at the same time, knowing that the product will continue and improve because you have the support of the partners and
Right.
support of the community.
exactly.
Like people, you have to make sure that exists to be a good partner.
We
I
get
agree.
so much product feedback by the support we provide to the partners.
Yes.
Yes. Yep.
And I'm happy to hear that you realize that for the product to be successful, the implementation has to be successful.
Yes.
Something we always said going way back, rising tides raise all ships.
There you go.
For a partner to be successful with it and for you to be successful with it, you want to have a successful implementation and for the customer to be happy, because that also flows over to Business Central, because even they
Right.
could have a bad experience with an ISV that's
Right.
or an independent software vendor, or an extension or a solution.
Yeah.
And it will put a bad taste in the mouth for Business Central as well, too. So it's not just a bad taste with in this case, we're talking about Continia. It could be the entire implementation. So having that support necessary for a partner is great.
Absolutely.
And I like to see that. I've seen other cases where it wasn't so easy.
Yeah. And
Which is
back
good.
to the organizational change element, right? So it all has to work together for the customer. They're not really going to know what the difference is if something's broken. It's all right there. It's all BC. And so again, we don't support the partners properly. The last thing you want to do is look bad in front of the client. And so it's not going to be a very long relationship if we're not providing that and positioning you best for your customer relationship. It's simple.
The next question I have with this is we talked about the training with the portals. You worked with a partner to ensure that there's a successful implementation. 10 documents comes with it. We won't talk about any of the pricing at this point. Are there any other features or areas or I don't even know what you call it, functional?
Well, we do have other solutions. The other one,
Yes,
people
other solutions. See, thank you.
typically, typically know is expense management. So employee expenses and corporate credit cards, mileage reimbursement, that area. There's a million competitors out there. So we take the position, make expenses go away as quickly as possible. That's it. make it as fast, intuitive, simple as possible to get those expenses in and out, and let's move on with our day. Because I don't know there's a larger non-value added activity for an organization than dealing with expenses and reimbursements, right? So let's make that as quick as possible.
So I do like that approach, and I am also happy to hear that you realize that there's more than one solution out there. I say to everybody, I talk with a lot of individuals, and someone's like, well, they're going to do this, or somebody would do this. And I always say, you will never be the only one to do something if there's a need for it.
Right.
I go to the hardware store, there's 4,000 screwdrivers. I will use the screwdriver that works best for what I'm doing. And it should be the same thing for all these applications. And it's, I say it in a couple ways is one, don't ever think you'll be the only one. And two, don't get discouraged if somebody else is doing something. It just means that there's a need for it. You just have to know what know the problem that you're trying to solve and solve it well.
Right.
And you and I could have an expense management product, and we're trying to solve two different problems, but it's still an expense management product, solution, whatever.
Yeah. Well said.
How did I say that? Expense management. So you're scanning expense reports in essence, or is there a portal where somebody types in their expense report? How does this expense report?
We try to make it as easy as possible. So we do have many different methods to get expenses collected, but most people have a Continia expense management app on their phone. Take a picture of the receipt. The OCR engine reads the information off that receipt, fills it into the expense entry for the person. AI will kick in and figure out, have they bought these things before, and automatically fill in the information it can based on detecting those coding patterns. They swipe a little submit button and they're done. So pretty darn simple.
Wow. AI.
So you have an app on your phone.
Yep.
iPhone, Android, all phones.
Of course.
You have your own app that you wrote?
I don't think we support Windows phones. Are they still around?
Windows phone? Did you say Windows phone?
That's what I said, yes.
No, they're not around. I do have an old Windows phone that I kept hoping
See,
one day.
He's trying to throw us now. No, a Windows phone stopped a while ago.
Right.
I kept my old Windows phone just, for antique purposes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it will work with iPhone and Android. They can scan, and it'll automatically go up to their Business Central.
Exactly.
And then somebody can review the expense. That's nice. And then it would create a purchase invoice for them to pay the employee.
It doesn't create a purchase invoice. We kind of separate that out. It creates an expense inside Business Central. And then when they post that expense, it creates basically the payable, and whether they reimburse employees as employees in BC or as vendors, we handle both of those methods.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Scratch that. So you can have an expense report for a vendor or a 1099, or also as an employee reimbursement.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have AP automation, expense management.
Those are the big ones.
And
we have
what else? I know you have more.
So much more.
I know.
It would take me decades.
Well, we don't have decades because, well, we could talk for decades because at this point in my life, it'd probably go by in the blink of an eye.
For the reasons previously cited.
But those are your are the most common ones that are typically quick turnaround times. Application.
We have the opposite of document capture, which is document output. So if a customer wants to send out, say, invoices or orders, confirmation statements, remittance advices, right? Any of those types of documents or data from Business Central, we have a toolkit where they can hyper-personalize those communications and queue them up automatically and be sent automatically on a schedule or based on a trigger in Business Central.
They have some fancy email and stuff, Chris, and it just doesn't have to be invoices.
Fancy email and stuff, so you don't have to do it one by one or craft all that inside BC. Yeah. You can add attachments, overlay, branding standards, change languages. It's quite the tool.
Multiple recipients, different recipients for different types of documents.
You got it.
Oh, wait, I was supposed to ask you all those questions.
I'll say ditto. Yes, you got it.
No, it's the document output is fancy.
Yeah.
I mean, the AP
Really?
is fancy. The expense management is fancy, but I like the document output because it's not just like someone would say sales invoices.
Right.
I've come across implementations where they use it for all different things,
Oh, yeah.
things that were even extensions that they had created themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So they were able to do distributions of documents that they've created themselves using the document output without having to, in essence, code anything. They were able to set it up with the data. They had a document that they created, and it was able to just follow into the same framework. That's why it's fancy.
Sort of wizard driven. And yes, if it's in BC, we can include that in an outbound email. Yeah.
Okay,
Wow.
so we have, so Chris, you getting all these? We have AP automation, expense management, document output, and is there more?
Oh, there's always more. Yes. The newest one, which is pretty interesting, is our sustainability solution.
Oh,
That's
sustainability.
right.
That's new.
What does
That
that
is
mean
new.
to you guys?
Sustainability. Sustainability is all about. Oh, you're going to send me down a road. I'm not going to say anything.
The amount of carbon footprint you generate is right.
Because
Stop
I
printing
go down
paper.
to the rabbit hole of how badly humans are destroying this planet.
Right.
We're the only species that destroys for fun.
And you guys saw The Matrix, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But 2 decades ago.
Is it more than 2 decades? 19. Yeah, I don't
Chris,
know.
I need to get a co-pilot little device here. I'm going to set that up going forward, so I can just be like, I'll mute quickly, and be like, similar to I can yell to these other devices. When was The Matrix released?
1999.
So
Wow.
over 2 decades ago.
Over 2 decades ago. Yeah,
I
under
was
3.
right. I was right. 25, a quarter of a century ago, it was released.
Oh, yikes!
See, that sounds appropriate. Quarter century, yes.
Quarter of a century. So, did I see The Matrix? I saw it a quarter of a century ago.
Yes. When you think that it was that long ago, the CGI in that is really impressive, right?
It was impressive. Yeah.
Listen, I played Pong. I remember going to the bike shop down the street and buying that little Pong device that you hooked up to the TV. And I thought those were great graphics. And then the Atari 2600 came out. I thought those were amazing graphics.
Incredible.
Put that on a TV today, and you're like, wow, I thought this was amazing
Yeah,
compared to what it
yes,
is today.
Yes.
But
Yes.
so maybe the Matrix CGI is in that. I have to watch it again now that you said that.
Mhm.
But Star Wars, those special effects will last
yes.
forever. You can't beat those.
Yeah, those are good.
See, you're sending us down these rats. See, you can't talk to us late in the evening like this.
Two more. Why did I bring that up? There was some.
No,
line
you
in
have
there
this is a new
about
product, right? Your new one of your new
Sustainability. We'll bring it
product.
back to the
continuous
sustainability. I'm sorry.
sustainability.
It was something about humans are the only virus that something or other. There was some quote in that Matrix, right? Talked about humans as a virus. Take
Yeah,
over the world.
that's right.
Yeah.
Agent Smith.
Yes. Sustainability is about carbon accounting. So that was a beautiful answer. And I know a fraction of 1% of this information, what it is and so forth, just working here at Continua. It's just not a thing yet here in North America. It's going to get here at some point, but the EU has been working on this certainly for a few years. And as of this year, for 2024, the largest companies in Europe have to report their carbon footprint as part of their annual financials. I think the companies that have to do this are equivalent to the Fortune 500 companies, but for Europe. So you start to think about, okay, what does that mean? You see on airplane tickets, right? On your receipt, may give you a carbon footprint number.
That's right.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
So now you have to collect that across everything that you do. You start to ponder for a minute, how do you even begin to do that, right? as a company. And there's certain scopes involved as well. So scope 1 is basically everything that we've done directly. If we've purchased something, if we've driven someplace, we take a plane ride, right? The things that we've done directly. Scope 2 is things that you've done indirectly. So you've caused a carbon footprint based on indirect. So upstream and downstream suppliers and vendors, things like that. And then scope 3 is now I forgot. There's 3 different scopes of kind of those touch points. And then you got to accumulate all of this and report all of this. So quite an interesting task ahead for companies to adapt to this and be able to.
I hope we get there soon, because it is something. I like that. And I did look up the quote. See, now it's late, so I can't read it.
And I did also look up scope 3. It did say.
Oh, see, look at this. Hold on. Agent Smith, you were correct. The Matrix, 1999. Human beings are a disease, a cancer of this planet. You're a plague, and we are the cure.
Yeah.
I like that.
Agent Smith.
See, but I wish it's funny. And again, we'll go on another tangent, and we're going to go back to the sustainability module. That in the United States, we're supposedly this technological power, superpower country, all this, whatever people call it. But we still use checks, right? We care so much about the environment, but we don't track sustainability. Like there's a lot of things here that I sit back and I go, it's not as advanced as it should be, or there's another reason why we're not.
Brad, are you saying all we're doing is giving lip service?
I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying I think it's funny that in the US we still process checks, and everywhere else in the world will look at us and go, what's a check? Even like, do you remember even like the tap cards?
Yes.
I was like, why are we still swiping? We have the highest credit card fraud rate in the planet. Like 90% of the credit card frauds in the United States. And I don't remember if that's the true statistic now. It's when I looked at it. And like, why don't we just start using these things to help reduce it? But no, we have, and then we'll say all these other countries are doing things, differently, or the way they shouldn't be. And we still use checks.
I actually get
scope 3.
I get razzed by my European teammates that we still use checks over here. It's just because they've not had checks for years and years. It's getting to.
I got a check in the mail. I didn't even know what to do. I almost threw it out. I thought it was fake.
You guys take a picture and do remote deposit.
I'm okay with taking the picture of remote deposit capture and all this stuff like that, but the fact that somebody will send me a check. And it's not only, I don't understand.
Yes.
I never will. They razz you justifiably so, in my opinion. Yeah. There's a lot of waste in checks.
It's kind of funny.
A lot of waste in the planet.
Funny.
We're not sustainable.
Yeah. So this is a cool tool. So you have this is...
What's scope 3, Chris?
Yes.
Before we forget.
Scope 3 says all other indirect upstream and downstream emissions.
Okay. For example, does it have an example there?
It did not give me an example.
Okay. All right.
I guess everything outside of that, scope 1 and scope 2, is the scope 3 out of scope.
Yes.
Whatever's out of scope. No, this is cool though that you have this tool. I think it's a good way to, maybe from the U.S. side, start thinking about that and how can you capture that. And you should. It'd be good to know what kind of carbon emission, are you outputting.
It goes back to the what gets measured gets done, or whatever that old saying is, right? But that's, I think, fundamentally what this is about. I don't think any one of us could hazard anywhere close to a decent guess as to what we're doing from a carbon accounting standpoint, on an annual basis. And then you start.
I'm all for it because you are correct. The more you track, the more you do. Right. Because even if you start tracking calories, for example, right? You pay attention to what you're eating. You track your spending, where you're spending your money, where you track, if you keep track of literally like categorize it, a lot of times you'll spend more wisely.
Yep.
Or wiser. Or wisely. More wisely.
More wisely.
Yeah, see, sometimes I forget. All jokes aside. So now we have sustainability.
Yeah.
Is there more?
Well, we have several other solutions globally that we're working through adapting for the North America marketplace, but those are the main ones here. Yeah.
So for the U.S.,
Very
the four
cool.
main ones that we can use within the United States
Yep.
are AP automation, expense management, document capture, and sustainability. But
And document
we
out.
should mention those other ones because we do have others that listen to this over the
Oh,
pond.
fair enough. You're saying we have a global reach.
Yes, over
Yeah.
the pond.
Oh, that's very nice. We have offices in 3 or 4 continents. 4 continents, I guess, right? So we are very much a global organization. And as you might expect, the other solutions we have available elsewhere are process automation tools related mostly to finance. We have basically a set of automation tools for the finance team in particular that we've actually just kind of regrouped and rebranded, and it's being announced, I think, very, very shortly, called Continue Finance. I don't really deal with that, so I can't really take you through all the elements that are in there. We have Continue Banking, which, as you'd expect, is for automatic customer to bank communications for sending payments and receiving bank statements and so forth. And then we have what's the other one? We have a payrolls oriented solution, but that's really just for Denmark.
Okay.
So,
You
yeah.
mentioned you're in several continents. Which continents are you present? In which
Well, I mean, we
continents?
cover all over the world. I don't think we have any customers in Antarctica, of course, but
Does anybody live in Antarctica? Like, for
well,
real?
Scientists.
I don't think you can put that as your permanent address, can you?
Well, that,
Not
I know
permanent.
scientists go there.
Not
but it's-
permanent. Yeah, that'd be
But
weird, wild.
I don't know if it's a permanent address. It's like there's people in the International Space Station. I don't know if they could put their address like please forward mail to ISS.
'Cause you're floating in space anyway.
You're just really stuck on this paper, aren't you? Hopefully, we don't have to send mail to the space station.
So funny.
Listen, if it's coming from the United States, I wouldn't doubt it.
Astronauts up there, I forgot to send in my utility bill. Yeah.
He has to mail a check. Can you send somebody up to take the check? That's funny.
Yeah.
I thought
That's
that was a
funny.
funny joke.
Okay. So we have offices, of course, in North America, Europe, and down in New Zealand. Well, I guess that's just 3 continents. Yes.
Wow, that's a good presence.
Yeah.
It is great. I would
Yeah.
like to go to New Zealand. I've always wanted to go to the Australia, New Zealand area.
Yeah. Yeah. It's got to be just incredible. Yeah. They tell great stories down there about how beautiful it is and all the interesting animals and so forth. Yeah.
Mark, you just tell him I don't believe you. Send me over there for me to validate.
We need to have a company meeting in New Zealand. No, I've heard the same. I've heard that New Zealand and Australia are beautiful. I've heard that they had some crazy animals. But I'm telling you, Florida has some crazy animals too. And I'm not talking about just the people.
Right. They just had what was it? The Python Roundup down there. That's always
Yeah.
fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
don't
there's
go
a
outside at
business
night.
for that.
I don't go outside at night. Like once it gets dark, I see you in the morning.
Right. Right.
Oh,
My
geez.
wife works at Colorado State University, and she's always telling them stories about life in Florida, and they just can't get over that. Like when you go golfing, you don't go in after a ball. If it's anywhere close to the water, you just leave it and move on, right? Because it's not worth a bite from an alligator, And they just,
It's not only that. I was walking back to my car the other day I was in the parking lot. I was charging the car, and they had a little coffee shop or something. I went into the coffee shop and walking back through, some parking lots, they have the islands. It was a grassy island, and we went to cut across it. And I said, watch your footing, because even when you cut across the grass, there's like stuff that will eat you. Snakes, scorpions, spiders. So even just walking through the grass in the parking lot, you have to be very, very careful that you don't step on a snake or something else that will kill you. See, Chris, we always talk about that. See, that's the one good thing about the mountains. In the mountains up north, it's a moose or a bear.
At least you can see them from far away.
I can see that thing coming. It will damage me quicker, but at least I have an opportunity to see it. The moose is not laying in the grass hidden underneath a couple leaves.
Yeah.
Do you know why they do these python roundups? You know why?
Because they're not native, and they're invasive, and they have no predators.
Correct. But how do all these pythons get there?
People buy pets and they let them go.
They, yes, let them go or flush them down the toilet when they get to be a little bit too big. And then they wind up in the water system, and there you go. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's several things down there here that are invasive. Like I found that like a Cuban, I think it's the Cuban frog, or I forget what the formal name of it is, but it's a frog, like a Cuban frog that has no predators, that is poisonous. I went outside and it shoots goo at you.
Ooh.
That's not good.
Yeah. Look up like the Cuban frog in Florida. Even those little stick bugs. They have a certain stick bug. I took a picture and I saw it outside.
Right.
They're poisonous. They shoot like venom in your eyes and you go blind.
No, that's not good. Don't do that.
No, I don't touch. I told you, I don't touch anything.
Everybody that's listening to this is like, when is the next event that's going to happen in Florida? I got to be careful.
No, we have a little levity today, but no, I do appreciate you talking with us about Continia, and
appreciate you asking.
No, yeah, absolutely, about all of the service. It's a great application, great extension, great suite of products.
I have a quick question, Mark. So when a new partner works with Continia, what is that experience like? Do you offer some training, a few days here and there, an environment for them to play with? How does that work?
Yeah, we really try to adapt the approach to what makes sense for the partner, because sometimes they have a little bit of experience, sometimes they just like learning on their own. So we'll work with them and figure out where to meet them and how to best support them. Generally speaking, they're going to get an onboarding process with me, and I'm going to take them through all the details and tell them how we support them and how we work with them, and my role in the sales process and how to make it easier for them. We've got on-demand training for document capture. It's, I think, 5 hours of training, for example, that they go through. Then we will transition them to the services team. And for like I said, the first couple projects, we're going to work with them on a regular basis, probably have calls a couple times a week with them, and make sure that we're doing the coaching, doing the advising, doing quality checks, etc., talking about how to progress through the project plan. We have a very detailed project plan that we provide, and step through that with them in concert, of course. And so through that first couple projects, that's how they learn the solution as well as the training we provide. Yeah.
And that's covered through the partnership.
Yep, all there
of the product. Wow, that's amazing. And so on top of that, they'll have access to knowledge base, right?
Yep,
so they can use it as a reference on top of getting support from directly, from a person to assist. That's amazing.
I mean, it is great. And then any customers, if they need the AP automation, expense management, or the document output, they can reach out to their partner. And if their partner's not familiar with it, at least they can reach out to you and you get all the support that they need, which is good too.
What happened, Mark, is so sometimes you have, I'm sure some small partners would want to implement Continia, but maybe they don't have the staff.
Yeah, great question. Great question.
How does that work?
That happens, right? They're either they're not big enough to really to be able to dedicate somebody, or they're very busy at the time, so forth. We have a list of additional independent consultants that will pick these projects up, and I just send them the list. They can work through that. Maybe they have a prior relationship with somebody on the list and subcontract out or just hand that off, but the partner can still keep the customer and just let this other person do the project for them. We get a lot of compliments about how easy we are to deal with. Frankly, there's no higher compliment for me. If we can make it so easy that it's almost enjoyable, right? We're doing our job.
People underestimate the importance of being easy to work with. Like I laugh
Yeah.
sometimes. It's
Yeah.
like it shouldn't be difficult to work with you.
Yeah.
It should be easy to work with you.
We recently found out, I think we're doing something right. We recently found out we're in one, or I should say 1 in 5 Business Central customers are using at least one of our solutions.
Really?
Wow, that's something.
That is
good
an amazing.
that's
That's a
good
great
number.
statistic. So
Pretty
1
good
in
stat, right?
5. That
1 in 5
equates to
BC
20%
Yes.
to me. And Business Central has over 40,000.
Right.
So that's a lot of customers that
Yes.
are using at least one of your solutions.
We have, I think the average number now is around 400 activations a month.
Wow,
A lot going on.
Wow.
that's impressive.
And they better send you to New Zealand for that.
I know. Team meeting in New Zealand.
Yeah.
400 activations a month.
Yeah.
Speaking of activations a month, is it a month-to-month type
As a matter of fact,
application, or is
yeah.
it an annual?
another way that we're making it easy for everybody. And again, just having dealt with so many ISVs over my decades career, I recognize how different, how beautiful this setup is. What we do is basically volume-based pricing. So at the end of the month, we'll measure if we're doing invoices, how many invoices did they process that month? And charge them according to that number. That's it. That's all there is to the licensing. So it is
Goes with their growth. Yeah.
So
And-
no, that I like the volume-based licensing because if I don't use it, I don't pay.
Bingo.
But also, it's competitive for those businesses that may have a smaller volume. They're not paying the same price as somebody who may have a larger volume.
It's attainable for smaller organizations for sure. Yeah.
I was going to use the word sustainable, Chris. The sustainability.
It starts around $1 an invoice and goes down from there. So if you're processing 50 invoices a month, that's $50 and something. That's pretty affordable for most companies, right?
Yeah, and the amount of time saved.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
That is great.
And a lot of I found out through doing the demos, talking to the organizations, there's a lot of companies that have seasonality to them, right? And so
Yes.
this accommodates that as well very, very nicely. They don't have to build in for their highest level of volume and then end up wasting a lot of money a lot of the year.
Okay, that's another good point. That's another thing I like about the Business Central Online process. You can have that seasonality if you're a certain organization that even for the holidays you may have to ramp up staffing or temporary staffing to be able to. That's I like that model. I think it's a great model. It makes it more affordable for all different types of businesses.
Agreed.
Well, Mr. Mark, it was a pleasure speaking with you this afternoon. It was also a pleasure seeing you in Atlanta. And I also look forward to seeing you in Texas.
San Antonio is right around the corner. Can you believe it?
It is right around the corner. I'm not certain if this will make it out before then because we're so close to it. But we can listen to it when it comes out and we'll think back of all the fun that we're going to have. Are you doing any sessions?
I am not this year, and I'm kind of disappointed. Yes, the short story is no, unfortunately. I
Is
really
anyone
you'll be
from Continue
there.
doing a session?
we won't have any sessions. Of course, we'll have a booth and be there in force, but no sessions, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, there's a tradition that we have. So please be mindful of that when I stop by the booth. That's all I have to say.
Of course.
You can blame someone else for that tradition, but it's been
Yes.
some years that tradition has been in play.
And speaking of which, I think this is going to fill in well enough for our.
Oh, yes, Chris.
Yeah.
I think I told you, Chris. So I was talking with Mark and a few others in Atlanta, and they're all growing the horseshoe too. I can't wait to
Yes.
shave this off.
There you go.
I forgot to mention, I was waiting to bring it up. Thank you, Mark, for bringing it up. I actually was thinking about that this morning to ask you. I cannot wait to do this and then have it and then just go back to just stubble or something. But We'll have
So
a
you
crew
got
of us.
more people doing it. That's
Yes,
awesome.
listen, that's how I roll, Chris. I don't just,
This
just
is
do
great.
it. I want everyone else to do it. Chris is trying to do it too, but he has a little more to grow.
Look, coming in. So it's this, and this will be Bear, right?
Gone.
Yeah.
Yes, a horseshoe is this and going down. But I'll show a secret now is I actually have been growing this for a while. I've been keeping it back, but once we're there, look at this. This will be gone. I'm doing like Hulk Hogan style. I'll have this going down. I'll trim it up and make it nice, but I've been keeping it pulled back.
Well, I got started late. I might need some extensions, but yeah.
You still have a couple weeks.
Hey, well, I think we're gonna bring in some stickers for if you don't grow it on time. Bring some stickers, slap it on. Boop.
Thank you again, Mark, for taking the time to speak with us. Look forward to seeing you at Summit. Definitely will stop by the booth. Again, this probably won't make it out just because we're so close to the conference, but the information is still important, and I will definitely see you there. If anyone has any questions, would like more information on any of the great products that Continia offers for Business Central, what is the best way to learn more about them? How can someone contact you to learn more about them and also see all the great things that you guys are putting together?
mdr@continia.com, or just go to continia.com, hit the contact me flag there, and just put your email in and we'll follow up. Yes.
Excellent. Great. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
That was absolutely fantastic, guys. Thank you so much.
No,
Really
thank
good.
you.
No,
So you
our
have
pleasure. Thank you.
great information. Thank you. Talk to you soon. Ciao, ciao.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you, Chris, for your time for another episode of In the Dynamics Corner Chair. And thank you to our guests for participating.
Thank you, Brad, for your time. It is a wonderful episode of Dynamics Corner Chair. I would also like to thank our guests for joining us. Thank you for all of our listeners tuning in as well. You can find Brad at developerlife.com. That is DVLPRLIFE.com. And you can interact with them via Twitter, DVLPRLIFE. You can also find me at matalino.io, MATALINO.io. And my Twitter handle is Matalino16. And you can see those links down below in the show notes. Again, thank you, everyone. Thank you, and take care.